Hello and welcome to our Did You Know series of webinars that we hold each Thursday. I am happy to be here. My name is Brian Bork. I am with the Readiness team, and I am joined today by one of our senior instructional designers. His name is David Meltzer, and he and I are here to talk to you today about creating useful and effective enablement resources for field sellers. Before we get started, just a quick bit of housekeeping. In your interface for GoToWebinar, you will have a section labeled questions. Please feel free to type in questions at any point as we go through, and we will be happy to answer those questions at the end when we have a QA session. We'll read them off and then we'll answer the question to the best of our ability. So David, what can you do to tell us about what we're going to be covering today?
Thanks, Brian. Today, I'd like to share a few ideas about creating sales enablement training, some content and tools. And I'd like to do this in the context of a story about one of our customers. And though I'll be talking about techniques that we used for business-to-business sales, we also apply these strategies broadly to different types of customers and circumstances and industries. And I'd like to start with some information about our goals for creating this type of content and some of the content that has proven to be valuable for sellers and for sales enablement. And then I'm going to talk about some of the ways we develop the material so that it's flexible, so that it involves SMEs and stakeholders, because that will encourage adoption of the material. And I'd also like to talk about some ideas for how the content can be refactored and rebranded or pivoted so that it can be customized and used and reused. And I'll show you some examples as I mentioned. So in this scenario, this customer was having problems with a large library of enablement content. And not surprisingly, it was very expensive and time consuming and labor intensive to build. And even after all of that, the customer found that sellers were presenting inconsistent messaging and positioning, which was very problematic across the group of customers within the enterprise segment. They found the materials were they just had too much. It was too academic. It was too technical, and it was nearly impossible to maintain because the information was so vast that in order to refresh it took huge efforts. And because sellers were not able to jump in and start using the material right away, they were losing opportunities for establishing credibility and getting the sales process started. So in context of these challenges, we created a plan, an action plan, with the enablement team at the customer to build a standardized library of reusable content. And it would be much more streamlined because we were finding that if people couldn't agree on a few things, how were they going to agree on a lot of things? So we started with what we found consensus about. And we based the content on contributors who had a good deal of credibility within the customer themselves. And we pulled in, of course, the account teams and architects and some of the trusted advisors from customers who had experience with creating and using effective content. So the customer saw immediate return on investment because as we started pumping out this content, it could be used right away. We did not have to wait to refresh the entire library. We could create content that was topical. We could start with certain components that were in demand, and then we could build things out as we went along. The material was well vetted. Nothing was released without very thorough reviews and consultation with even people outside of the company, perhaps with some of our partners. And this built great credibility during the sales process. And all of these benefits together helped accelerate the sales process and maintaining engagement in the end-to-end building of the solution. So again, though this example is about business-to-business sales, we apply these techniques and strategies to many other types of businesses and for many other business functions. But we always are looking for some very basic goals. We want the content to be effective, valuable, adopted. These are easy things to say. They're harder to achieve. Let's look real quickly. To be effective, of course, the material should result in sales, but that's not all. Effective material opens the door to discussions with more executive leadership, more business decision makers. It helps expand the discussion about the possibilities, what the customer could invest in. It helps give them a vision. It establishes a trusted relationship with customers and prospective customers through thought leadership and responsiveness, and just in the perception of being prepared. And the material becomes valuable once it's being used, not just for increasing revenue or helping sellers meet their sales quotas, but helping sellers save time and energy so they have capacity to do higher value work and to focus on the experience the customer is having with them. And it adds prospects to the pipeline, another valuable component. And because the content is effective and valuable, it tends to be adopted. Of course, adoption also depends on some evangelism efforts, but largely it depends on buy-in from subject matter experts, managers, executives, and this requires early involvement of stakeholders and ensuring that stakeholders know that their ideas are being integrated and considered and making an impact on the content. And then, as I mentioned, the content needs to be properly evangelized to the field. People need to step forward and clearly note the value and the examples of successful use in the field so that the content will be used consistently. Some other priorities that we have for encouraging the use of the materials are that they're self-service. They can be used anytime, anywhere. They're mature enough to be used right off the shelf. They contain guidance and examples so that they're self-standing. The content needs to be verified, of course, and verified across stakeholders. And we would like the content to accelerate customer engagement and sales quickly. There are often only a couple of weeks to get in for a pre-sales opportunity, and sellers need to have material at hand, which will make it more likely that they will grab it and use it. I want to mention that our company, Learn on Demand Systems, is typically known as a provider of instructor-led and on-demand labs and content for example, developers and IT administrators. But the sales enablement content that we create is used differently, either as tools for discovering and documenting customer pains and needs, or as a way to inspire their action and investment. You may have experienced it during a sales motion, especially during a pre-sales phase. The enablement content is teaching, it's raising awareness, it's demanding some interaction. from the audiences. It's demanding that they synthesize some of their ideas with some new ideas. It invites them to participate and contribute. And it's a way to ramp up executives and stakeholders in their understanding of the opportunities and the business initiatives that they might invest in. And this type of content and how to use it is also presented to sellers as training when ramping them up, and sometimes in on-demand form, and sometimes in instructor-led or seminar form. And prospective customers also use the content internally to teach their own stakeholders about business transformation and adopting a digital mindset. And here are some of those components. There are many more that are used in a sales motion. We have storyboards for illustrating scenarios and architectures. We've created capability maps that identify business areas impacted by new ways of doing business. We have value scorecards, which help express the benefits of making changes. And we have customer journeys, which prove to be very valuable in showing transformative areas, places where customer experience can be transformed to meet modern expectations. We have battle cards, case studies. What makes this reliable? One of the things we found is that the structure and the relevance of the content are very important in getting sellers started quickly, and that value is provided throughout. Sellers don't have to consume all of the material in order to start using it. They can gain value a piece at a time, or as they go along, or as the customer tunes into the opportunities. Sellers are busy. They're juggling multiple accounts, and we want to be empathetic to those challenges. And having a modular off-the-shelf foundation gives sellers a place to start and start quickly, and then they branch out. And the content can be used as is, or it can be adapted to customers, or it can be used as is to start, to inspire some ideas, and then tweaked to represent the customer's own situation. A discovery process, it's very valuable. The content can be adapted to different channels, different ways of presentation, different audiences, instructor-led, it can be discovery workshops. The content can even be collateral. It can be made somewhat more flashy and used as a lead behind. The goal ultimately is to build a library of worked examples as well as templates to get feedback from the field, to get the way they've applied the content. And then we have a feedback loop where we can continuously improve the content, continue to refine it so that it becomes more effective. When we start creating enablement tools, or enablement content and tools, we often have some materials that the customer has provided to us. And this is good. We want to leverage and reuse as much content as possible. But throughout our research, we can also find that content is inadequate or out of date or no longer relevant. And the way we find these things out is we do some industry research, and we look across industry to find out what are some of the priorities. Where are customers having success? What types of language resonates with them? What is the jargon that we need to create these materials using? And we look at trade journals, interviews with executives. We even look at security filings, which often include business strategies and information about the investments that the company is going to make. And then, of course, we get foundational information from SMEs, account teams, and consultants. For SMEs, we want to be efficient and respectful when we're using their time. They're very busy, and they're often in high demand. And it's important when working with SMEs to be prepared with good questions and to be flexible and to know how to listen carefully. Uh, we want to ensure that there's early participation by SMEs. It helps with buy-in, and it helps us advertise the robustness of the material because we've been working with experts, which is always a good place to start. We want to maintain the engagement of SMEs through the content lifecycle. And even though a SME may not have much time to do more than give information at the beginning and review at the end, we want to make them feel involved. It often causes them to spontaneously insert themselves and participate. Just knowing that we're still out there, still working on things. And all of this is about building relationships. By building relationships through every interaction, we can build our network of knowledge. We can make it easier to reapproach experts in the future. Account teams have different focus where we are taking this technical information, the possibilities, and shaping it in terms of value for a customer. So we want to look at what is the positioning, what is the messaging that we're going to frame and wrap these possible solutions in. There's often a confusingly wide variety of inconsistent messaging, but working in our position as an instructional designers and enablement teams where we're working across account teams, we can see the type of messaging that's emerging and help unify it. We can also, as we look around, discover gaps in the content. And in some cases, there are a few answers about these gaps, but then we need to help guide stakeholders through the process of discovering the answers or to work on their behalf to discover the answers. We also see patterns in practices emerging that are producing great results. And we don't want to lose this knowledge. So we capture the best practices and we integrate them in the way that we design and develop the enablement content and in the ways that the content is used in the field. And everything works better when there is a consensus about the value of the content, the way it's been successfully used, and the outcomes that people see that it's effective. Some of this work can be overwhelming. It can be daunting to an enablement team. And a team, even a small one, focused on enablement, with the assistance of an instructional designer, can expedite the process. It can improve the quality. It can improve the uptake of the content. Instructional designers can help in driving a vision for the content and the tools, can help adapt content for different circumstances, can evangelize the content, can help popularize the use of the content. We can develop the design templates and style guides. Sometimes these come from the customer. Sometimes they defer to us onto how things look. And we may work with designers to meet the design goals that the customer has. We can be a quality gate. We can look across the materials being produced. Different materials have different stakeholders. They might not see inconsistency. We can see inconsistency. And one of the most time-consuming aspects of creating this type of material is managing the interviews and reviews with people. This is something that takes place in an overlapping fashion. There's frequently many conversations going on at the same time, and there's a lot of follow-up. And this can be an area where instructional designer can really add a lot of value. And also I've been mentioned that instructional designers can do outreach to help keep SMEs and others engaged. So let's look at some of the examples that this particular customer used within their enablement material. These have been uh, made more generic, just for illustration purposes. One of the tools frequently used is a customer journey. Sometimes this is a general industry journey that a customer has. In this case, it's a retail example. Sometimes it's a example of an employee's journey. If, say, we're doing workplace transformation. And this helps illustrate where there are opportunities to go digital, to invest. For example, when looking at products, a customer these days expects to be able to do it on their phone, on their computer, in a car. It needs to be omni-channel. Customers respond positively to personalized incentives. This requires some investment in artificial intelligence or machine learning, um, as well as the recommendations that are made to customers. These are ways to improve the customer experience when they're in a retail environment, whether it's a physical or virtual one. Breaking down the journey can be very helpful in giving customers a vision of what they're after. When customers are looking at how changes are going to impact their internal business functions and where there are dependencies that investment might be necessary, we can create a capability map that focuses on areas impacted by transformation. It doesn't have to be comprehensive, and it often follows industry standards and nomenclature. We've also created storyboards for a couple of different reasons. Sometimes a storyboard illustrates the technical flow of information, and sometimes it illustrates a use case. And in this case, it's more like a use case. The important thing about it is that there's a customer need, there's an approach and some components for solving that need. And then there's the outcome. In this case, it's a satisfied customer who helps build the brand by sharing about their good experiences. We state clearly what are the benefits of this use case. And one of the big benefits is because customers feel understood, they're more likely to remain customers. So we reduce customer churn by improving the customer experience. These are some of the aspects that are revealed that make it easier to sell to a prospective customer. We also create materials that express the value of making changes, of investing in a product or service. And value can be split up into customer value, employee value, operational value. Types of the value are increased product availability for customers. In this case, it's a smart factory, which may be greener and save energy, an operational advantage. Employees might be more satisfied because they are able to participate in a more meaningful way at work. And the value of a transformation may be simplifying training or reducing costs, improving capabilities for the factory. We try to state these, we try to identify what value is in that industry, and we sell based on value. We help our customers sell based on value. To recap, we design enablement content with the goal of a customer increasing their competitive advantage. We develop these materials so that a customer gains more from their investment, because the materials will be reused and because they'll save time for sellers and account teams. We want the content to be impactful, and we want to be agile with it. So it needs to be designed in a way that is modular and can be shifted around and adopted as needed for certain circumstances. This saves money and a good deal of time when sales motions are unfolding very rapidly. And we have many more examples and ideas to share with you. So let's look at a project. So I'm going to turn it back over to Brian now, but first I'd like to thank you for joining me today. Brian?
So there are always a couple of extra resources, and because of the theoretical nature of a lot of what Dave has covered today, we have a excellent contact page for you to get more information about what our team can do to help you extend your own. You can reach us at LODS.ONE/services. Each week we hold a webinar, sort of a deeper dive like this one. Our next one will be coming up on Thursday, March 4th. And if you are interested in working with our training management system as an operations manager, we have working with class features, and it will be Jane teaching you everything you need to know about working with classes and what you can do with classes inside of the TMS. You can sign up for that one or review any of our previous ones by signing up at LODS.1/feature demos, all one word, no space. And then I would strongly encourage you to save the date. Coming up March 24th and 25th, we have Launch Q1. It is a free 2-day event for lab developers, operations managers, and business decision makers. You can sign up and get registered or save the date information at LODS.1/launch. And with that, we would like to thank you very much for your time. David, all excellent stuff, and we will be happy to answer any questions. Feel free to type them in, or we will cover them if they have been typed in already.